This video is intended to provide a little bit more explanation as to how the amplitude and period was determined for number 1 in the practice exercises. First of all, the amplitude. We'll go through the amplitude for each of the trig functions. The amplitude is the easier of the two. The amplitude is the number or the parameter that sits in front of each of the trig functions. So 1a, the amplitude is 2, b, a half, c, it is 5. We're not going to include the negative. The negative is telling us that it's reflected in the x-axis. And lastly, d, the amplitude is 3. Now let's discuss how the period was determined for each of the functions. The parameter k, in this case 4 for 1a, is telling us the number of cycles that are occurring in the usual period for sine, which is 360 degrees. So instead of having one cycle occurring in the 360 degree period, we have 4 cycles. So to determine the period of the function we have in 1a, we take the old period of 360 and divide it by this parameter k, 4. So we'll use this little formula to help us, but it really is the same thing that I've just mentioned. The period usually is 360 degrees, but now we're seeing 4 cycles occurring in that period. So instead of a single cycle, we're seeing 4. So 360 will be divided by 4, which will give us an answer of 90 degrees. Now, let's look at b. In the same way that we determined the period for 1a, we're going to determine the period for 1b. Again, the period for sine is usually 360 degrees if it is not transformed in any way. But the parameter this time is 1/2. So we're going to take the usual period of 360, and basically what's happening is that we're getting half a cycle occurring in that the usual 360 degree period. So what will the new cycle be for 1b? We're going to take the old period of 360 and divide it by 1/2. So 360 divided by 1/2 will give us 720 degrees. Now let's look at 1c. The parameter in front of the value of x here, for the cos function, there is no parameter, but it's understood to be the value 1. So this function has no transformation to it. The period for this function is the usual period for cos, which is 360 degrees. Let's take a look at 1d to finish up. The parameter in front of the value of x is 2. So this means that there are 2 cycles occurring in the usual period for cos, which is 360 degrees. So to determine the new period, we'll take the old period of 360 divided by the number of cycles that are occurring in that old period, and that will give us the new period of 180 degrees.